old cow peeled out there in the little oak scrub, bad place to catch cattle, but we didn't care if we get to her. We caught her if she was in the swamp. He caught an old cow, and a big old red cow come outside of her, and that little old horse wouldn't run, and I got up pretty close, not close enough to rope her, and I'd run a little while, and the old cow would slow down a little, and I'd get up, and I guess I'd run her over there about 2 miles, and that old colt would give out. And the wreck of that old cow just stopped and whirled and come back at me just like a panther. And of course I caught her when she come close enough. Mine was to catch her. And she had pretty bad horns. She was, I guess, 10 or 12 years old. And that little old horse would give out, of course, and he wouldn't move no how. And she went to hooking him, and she hooked him 8 or 10 times in the chest. Now, I was on him, and when she'd run at him, I didn't know she was going to fight. I thought she'd just turn around and quit and fight a little bit, and I'd catch her and tie her to a tree and go on back to the bunch and help the rest of them. We'd come back and get her. That was the run of the mill. That's the way you done things. But God, we couldn't get her loose from her. She'd hook that little old horse and stick them horns 2 inches in his chest and all in his shoulder. She hooked him, I don't know, 8 or 9 times in the side. But the side I was on, and I saw I was in trouble right away. He wouldn't move. He'd give out, of course. And I'd put my foot out, and she'd run into me. I'd stick my foot out there and hold tight, and she couldn't hook us as hard. But finally, he'd lay down, or either she knocked him down. I don't know which. And I saw he was bleeding pretty ferociously, and I got down in time when he'd lay down. I was right out there by myself. I knew that I had to either catch her or kill her, or she was going to kill me, or something had to happen. We was in the road. And when she backed off from him just a little bit and got her horn out of it, well, I caught her. And I caught her with my body right between her head. And when I twisted her head over and she fell, why, I fell right under her head, which wasn't where I was supposed to fall. But her had horns like they stuck in the ground. Oh, I don't know, 6 or 8 inches. When she fell, of course, I was in dire. I was scared, of course, scared to death. But I knew where I was at, and I knew what to do. It's funny how you can be scared to death and yet would caught cattle so much, you knew right where to catch them and just how to do. I had her popped her old neck around there and busted her wide open, and there she stuck them old horns in the ground, and I was laying under them, right between them. And I couldn't get out. And of course, she was wiggling and twisting and digging them deeper. And the little old horse is still laying down, and we had, 35, 40 foot of rope. We used to rope with long ropes then. And he hadn't even got up, and I saw he was bleeding, and he may be dead. I didn't know. He was sitting up cow fashion. But I could look back over my head and see him. And, there was 4 or 5. That Bethel Chancey, he'd run one out, and he was such a big cow man. Man, he just catch the devil if he walked up and tie him down, Well, I knew he'd run one out past me. He couldn't catch one if he run over. He wasn't no cowboy, but he'd run an old cow over there, and I looked over in that direction, and I saw him coming back, and I didn't know I couldn't see enough where he had the rope, or whether if he didn't have the rope on the saddle, he'd caught the cow for it, more than likely. So I hollered, and he must have rode 200 yards up me and just rode right on. Me sitting there under that old cow and her kicking, and I couldn't get out from under without turning her loose. I didn't know I could even do it then. She had me pinned down pretty bad. I wasn't choking or hurting or nothing. I was just in a position I couldn't get up. And so I thought, well, the hell with it. I was about dead, and the little old horse had died, and I just fumbled around. And years ago, we had cattle in this old river swamp. I learned as a kid, if you're going to carry a knife, carry a sharp one. And that thing has impressed me like the hair on my head, which ain't very thick now. But I always carried a sharp knife, and I thought, well, I just will kill this damn little fool. And so I wiggled around there and with one hand sort of, and finally got my knife out of my pocket and opened it with my teeth, and I was laying on my back sort of, and the old cow's head up over my head, and I just reached up over my head and caught her in the neck and pulled that knife, and one lick, I cut her throat. Cut it from ear to ear. Of course, I was scared, and I put all I had on it. I didn't want no second lick. And of course, the blood just flew. I like to drown it. But then she began to quit kicking, and I knew I could get out from under, because she was, that's about as near as you get to getting the best of a cow to cut her head off. And I got out from under and got that little old horse. He was still laying down, but it was cold. God almighty, it was cold. And I was bloody as a stuck hog. I had all that cow blood all over me. But it seemed like from the time this started, I looked back on it and did then, that it must have been at least 2 years from the time I caught that cow till I got her throat cut. But I guess it wasn't. But
I'll bet.
I got out from under and she wobbled around a little bit. She never get up. I made sure she had, she was through with her.